Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the 2020 Global Read Aloud. It is Mr. Sarlo, and we are reading the book Planet Omar Accidental Trouble Magnet, and today we are reading Chapter 22. So, last we left off in Chapter 21, Omar and Daniel were still lost, but then they found London Central Mosque, where a man helped them and he called the school. And the school had already called the police and thought they were lost. But then Omar and Daniel's family both came to pick them up. So everything was okay, and Omar feels like a hero. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with chapter 22. When everything had settled down that evening, Charlie's mom rang my mom and asked if she could bring Charlie over to see me, because he was a panicky mess and wanted to make sure I was okay with his own eyes. So Charlie came over and we ate cookies with chocolate milk, and I told him all about the zombie thing and about Daniel peeing himself. Then, after we finished almost peeing ourselves with laughter, I sat up straight and told Charlie that I felt bad for laughing because Daniel wasn't too bad at all, now that I had gotten to know him a bit. Okay, said Charlie, but he didn't seem too sure, so I said, "You'll see, Scout's honor," and saluted at him. I wasn't a scout, and Charlie just burst out laughing again, but I think he believed me. A couple of days later, my parents invited Daniel and his family to our house for iftar. They all wanted to discuss every detail of that crazy day, of being lost on the underground. Mr. and Mrs. Green seemed nice. I remembered what Daniel had said about feeling like he was just in the way at home. But they were paying him lots of attention now. His dad kept ruffling his hair, and his mom kept touching his shoulder like she wanted to check he was still there. I had a feeling that was why they'd left his sister, Susie, with her aunt for this visit, so Daniel could be their star. They told Mom and Dad that they were very grateful to the mosque for helping us. Then Daniel told my parents all about how I asked Allah for help, and it was only after that we were saved, so it must have been Allah all along. Of course, I had already told them my version of the story, but they were extra proud to hear it from him. Daniel's parents wanted to go to the mosque to thank them again personally, so we had the idea that they should come with us on Eid Day and do it then. Everything was looking really good. I could hardly believe that in just a few days, Daniel had gone from being the person I liked least of all to being my friend. He was trying to be Charlie's friend, too, which was a bit harder because they're so different from each other. But I had an accidental magnet again and pulled them together, and I was completely super sure they'd get along. Charlie and I had even asked Daniel to play soccer with us on the playground because we realized that nobody had even asked him before. It turned out that he was better than anyone in the whole class at being goalie, but there was still one thing that was bothering me, so I just blurted it out. "Will our family be kicked out of the country?" The air in the room suddenly got very thick, like we were on a different planet, with less oxygen or something. Everyone looked very awkward. And since Miriam always giggles in awkward situations, she put her hand over her mouth, but I could still see her shoulders shaking, and so could Isa because he pointed at her with his cheeky grin. "Where did you get an idea like that?" said Dad. I suddenly realized that I'd gotten it from Daniel, but Daniel would be in trouble if I said anything. I looked at him really quickly and looked away. Then I said, I heard it somewhere, and I even asked Riza, and he said we will have to live in Pakistan. Dad laughed, but Mom nudged him because she could see that I was serious. Then she smiled politely at the Greens, who looked really uncomfortable. Daniel was color matching his skin with the tomatoes on the plate. I wondered if he could feel it when he went red. Dad explained that was never going to happen, and kids make things up all the time. He said that I should always talk to an adult to get the facts right when I hear something like that. Then Daniel blurted out, "Okay, it was me, and I'm sorry, Omar." Everyone's head turned to Daniel really fast. Daniel's head hung toward the floor. "Well, I heard my cousin Brian saying it, so I just said it to Omar to make him feel bad because I didn't think he'd want to be my friend, but I'm sorry now, anyway." Mrs. Green's face was doing the color matching thing with the tomatoes now, and Mr. Green was saying, "Oh, Daniel," and he was burying his face in his hands. And then Mrs. Green was saying, "I'm so, so sorry." And Daniel was saying, "I'm so, so sorry." And Dad was saying, "Hey, it's okay. Kids will be kids." and Mom was looking from one person's face to another. And then suddenly they all went quiet and looked at me. Omar, I am very proud that you are Daniel's friend, and I wouldn't want you going anywhere, Mr. Green said. Phew, I thought, now everything is okay. I imagined H2O peeking in through the window. He was tiny now because I didn't need a huge dragon to make me feel better anymore. He winked at me and waved with his tail before flying back off into his cloud. Okay? So that is the end of chapter 22. It seems like Daniel came over to Omar's house, and now him, Charlie, and Omar are all friends. They invited him to play soccer at school and everything like that. But now Omar still had that thing that was worrying him, what Daniel said to him, that he would be kicked out of the country. So they kind of had a little confrontation about that, and Daniel admitted that he was the one that said it. But everybody just kind of laughed it off and said kids will be kids, and they say silly things. And Omar's dad reassured them that it's never going to happen. They're not going to get kicked out of the country. Okay, so next time and next video, we are going to read our last chapter, chapter 23, which is the last chapter of the book.